What is up? Summer weekend. We got the Independence Day holiday coming up, and we wanted to give you guys extra content to listen to on your road trips. And I think you're really going to enjoy this one as we continue our summer series of previewing the 2024 Iowa State football season. Shout out to the program there for really opening the doors to us and giving us some of these assistant coaches and whatnot. I think you guys are going to love today's interview. Not that you haven't the other ones. A few times for me where people surprise me in a podcast anymore, and Ryan Clanton, the offensive line coach, just blew me away. This was one of my favorite interviews I think I've done in 10 years or so. Clanton was so open. It's a position on the offensive line where I truly don't think most casual fans have an understanding of what in the heck's going on most of the time. And that's kind of how I approach this thing. And Clanton is this is a really good exercise. I think if you're a high school football coach, a middle school football coach, you can learn a lot from this interview as far as strength and conditioning, nutrition, all that stuff goes. Clanton's amazing. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. Of course, we couldn't do it without our great sponsors of this summer series here as we continue to preview the football season. Believe it or not, we have Big 12 Media Day coming up here in like a week and a half. So the season is just around the corner. I want to thank my friends at Robinson Implement, a full-line AGCO, Kubota, and versatile dealership for all of your farm equipment needs. They have 3 convenient locations in Irwin, Pocahontas, and Corning. They have all of your farm and construction equipment needs. Again, thank you to Robinson Implement for backing us here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. And, of course, my friends over at the Fairway Meat Market, baby. Tailgate season just around the corner. My favorite thing to do on a Friday, get the old RV planted there in the RV lot, get it all locked down, and I head straight to the Fairway Meat Market. It's where the old Wallabies used to be, and they've always got something new that they're cooking up there. Maybe, I'm going to do a seafood boil tonight. Or, what did they put in those bratwurst this week? I don't know. It's always different. Fairway Meat Market. Right there in Ames. We appreciate their longtime support of the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. All right, I want to get to this. This is an exciting one. I did this interview like a week ago, and I've been itching to get it out here on the network because I know how much you guys are going to enjoy it. Ryan Clanton, he's the offensive line coach at Iowa State. Let's hear what he has to say. All right, Coach. Well, first of all, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it. I like these. These are always some of my favorite interviews when I can talk to the line coaches on both sides of the ball, because the one thing I've learned in my 20 years or so of doing this is how little I actually know about offensive and defensive line play. So I enjoy being able to pick your guys' brain. First of all, how is your summer going? Update everybody on what's been going on there and not only in your office, but your life. How are you, sir?
Yeah, summer's been great. We've had the official visits, prospect camps, and then really, able to work with our players to a certain extent. And then obviously the summer training and lifting. So it's been busy, but fun. This is one of my favorite times of the year just because you have a chance to like really get around the players and work with them, in a different way than just football. So, the training aspect in the off season, like that would be my biggest, one of my favorite things about the offseason, just be able to train with the guys and work those guys, put them through different styles of movements like you were talking about with the offense and defensive line. Mm-hmm. My opinion, the offseason is the most important. That's really where you are, making your presence felt. And when I say that, I mean, like, you're building that body, not just a conditioning standpoint, but trying to put on as much muscle as possible in a short amount of time, and then working through, spring ball, obviously, and then, the breaks that you have, and being able to set those guys up for success, even when they go on vacation and come back. And it's interesting. It's definitely, it takes some, it's taken me a lot of years to figure out the right formula, for each step. And our guys the resources we have are amazing. I mean, it's like, it's not even close to anything that I've had in the past. So That's the cool part for me personally. There's nothing that we need around here, like from an offensive line perspective, when we're training and developing. So that's been fun.
So as far as that development goes, last offseason was a little bit scrambled because you had so many of these new guys coming in, yourself included, and you had a new strength coach as well. How long does it take to see the fruits of that labor, I guess, with your position? What I'm getting to is, do you feel like you're in a better spot right now because you guys have had that full year than you did a year ago?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, especially with strength training, that's really the key is time. We made a really like from when I got here last year to really starting the season, we made a total transformational push on all the, not even just the linemen, but really, everybody and their body fat percentage to muscle, lean body mass. And then kind of going into the new phase, the new year, having a full calendar year to do this. They already have, the great foundation laid. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, in times where, say we're on the road recruiting, and we can't be available to the players, 24/7 here. They know what they're supposed to be taking or how their eating schedule is. And I think that for them, like that helps their foundation. And it's really been helping a lot this off season. You're seeing guys that, you're getting guys that are pushing, 330 pounds with below 20% body fat, which is, those guys they walk around and, you stand next to them in an elevator and you're like, whoa, so
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not small. But they make me look like I'm, like I've never even touched a weight in my life, which is good. So
what was that, for layman's terms, for dummies like me, what was that transformation as far as the strategy goes? Because I've heard, I've interviewed enough line coaches we had a guy here back in the day, it was all about like agility and they didn't want to be the biggest line out there. Some philosophies, we want to be as big as possible. Where was it, and where is it kind of shifted to as far as how you guys approach it?
Yeah, the way that I approach it is, it's not wrestling, so you're not trying to make a weight. Sometimes like I'll get guys come in the office like, man, I should weigh this much. This is the weight that I need to be at from all positions and help me get there. And I'm kind of, looking at them like, well, what if you could be 10 pounds heavier at a lower body fat percentage? You would want that. And then immediately, yes, obviously. And then it's like, well, you're not trying to make a specific weight. You're trying to have as much muscle as possible with the least amount of body fat. And I think for an offensive lineman, to be agile, quick, and still pack a punch and be powerful, for me personally, I've coached a lot of tall guys in the past. So for that formula to be agile and be able to pack a punch and when I say that, I mean like be explosive. Mm-hmm. So big difference between benching 500 pounds and then seeing that on the football field. It just doesn't directly translate at times. So really creating those, I think that's what Reed does really well in the strength conditioning aspect, is training those guys in a more explosive way. To be able to create that pop. Same with, anything from the ground, power clean, hang clean, anything from the ground up, anything, squat, explosive movements, not just, old school, let's put as much weight on the bar and figure out, it's not really, we're not powerlifting. So I think that kind of phasing into that, I've coached a lot of taller guys, and you have to be able to have them be flexible enough. Spencer was, he was very, very tall. He was pushing, like 6'9" and some change. So for those guys to be able to drop their center of mass and then be able to explode back, like, it's hard, don't look at the camera this way, but explode in this direction while dropping their mass without like their chest going straight down, and being able to like bring the hips through to like bring that forward movement.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of tall guys, which is good. That's how we've been recruiting since I've been here. And to get those guys to have a strong core to connect the upper body and the lower body, which will bring that center of gravity forward, when you're pressing against another person in football. And like for me, that to see those guys be able to snap their hips, bend, and then really explode through, that's been the coolest part for me. And we've got guys like Tyler Miller, he's 6'9", and before I got here, he was like 305 pounds. Well, the first 6 months I was here, he got to 337 pounds, I think.
Wow.
And it was the fastest he'd ever moved, because for him, that would be like me at 6'4", weighing 270 pounds, trying to play football. Right. And so for him, like, he had a bigger frame that could handle more weight. And then we have guys that have cut and gotten leaner and played better leaner. And a lot of that has to do with genetics. And obviously, like, you can tell if you're really looking at those body scans, you can tell, the ratio of the muscle mass to the fat mass that they put on at a certain time period. It'll kind of give you like a snapshot of their genetics in a controlled environment. And try to use that to then make them weight recommendations or, working with Nicole and Johnny in nutrition to really, work through their diet. And sometimes it's not even their diet and what they're eating, it's the timing of what they're eating. And that for us has been like the biggest adjustment. And so I spend a ton of time with those guys, not just the whole line, but the whole team, just going through really like timing, the benefits of supplementation or, the timing to take protein, different types of protein, and really making sure that those guys are hitting those goals. Because really for any position, like if I was going to train someone to run, a 40-yard dash, if I cut weight off of them, like a skill player, if I was cutting weight, and they were, say, going to the combine, then I'm going to take muscle mass with that, and I'm probably going to slow them down. And, their broad jump, their vertical jump, it's all going to suffer. But if I can put muscle on them in a short amount of time when they're training and say they keep the same amount of body fat percentage to the total weight that they have, which is the muscle mass, then those guys are going to be faster. They're going to jump higher. They're going to jump further. They're going to be more explosive. So really that is, that's what I like to do. That's what I've liked to do even before coaching football, just really getting into that kind of the bodybuilding world, and then taking that and I would say like the most important parts of that, bringing them to football, which is really what all the strength coaches are doing nationwide. And you'll see like the elite ones. I mean, you'll get off the bus and you'll be like, whoa, those guys, those guys, they're trained well. And I think that we're getting to that point, kind of a long answer to your original question. But like, it takes time. And I feel like we're in that time now where they're starting to see that concrete foundation where their weight and their muscle mass isn't fluctuating up and down constantly. Like they're building the foundation and they're going up from there, that's what you want.
Well, this is all fascinating because I go back to when I was in school. I lived with a couple. I lived with a lineman, and for Coach McCarney. So this is back in like 20 years ago. And I just remember those guys would just come home. I lived with 3 players. One was a lineman and then a couple other guys. But they just have these like boxes of Hickory Park. Just eat whatever you want. And then I remember Matt starting to chirp earlier in his tenure about the importance of a nutrition coach. And I mean, I think that is this one of the more underrated conversations with the evolution of not just Iowa State football, but college football in general. Just the stuff you're talking about right now, I feel like 20 years ago wasn't even really a thing. It may have been at bigger programs, but it certainly wasn't here.
Yeah, it's all about development, right? So, the guys that I've coached that have made it to the highest level, those guys came in at 220, 240 pounds, great frames. Elite athletes. And putting weight on them the right way. It took 3 years to do it the right way. But you're really building season by season, and the focus in certain programs, I would say, isn't maybe development. It would be, just recruit guys that can do it at all costs. And, they're going to look great, after they don't sleep for 4 days and they eat whatever they want, and they're going to look the exact same. But what I like about Coach Campbell is it really kind of plays into my strength of off-season development for offensive linemen, and bringing those frames in that you can then really put that plan together. And it's a passion. I'm trying not to talk for 8 hours about this, because I could go for 8 if you wanted to. I mean, I could go for 8. I would wear you guys out.
This is why I wanted to talk to you, this type of stuff. I mean, I'll pick your brain on all the players when it comes to fall camp. I don't need to worry about it. This is good stuff, man.
It's just it's so interesting to me. Like, it sets us apart in recruiting, because, when you're talking about development, it's here's the plan. These are the players that it's worked on, which is all of them, and the only time it hasn't worked is if someone was completely against, say, being this big, or didn't even want to play football, I guess you could say. I can't remember a player off the top of my head that didn't want to look great and play really well. And I think that sometimes, like, you see all the time, and people, you got a giant O-line, and we do. We have a really big O-line. But, like, my goal isn't to have the fattest O-line in the nation or the heaviest per pound. My goal is to have the highest ratio of lean body mass to body fat percentage. Like, that is the goal. And really, the way that we're doing it here is we're doing it ourselves. And, we're doing it the right way. We're doing it from the ground up. You've obviously got the position coach that's sitting here doing it with you, along with trained professionals in that field. And I think that is because I support them, they support me. And the players know that what we're doing is really for their ultimate good and to reach their ultimate goal. So it is fascinating. And I always looked at it from my lens as a player, because I wasn't just like, I didn't even really play football until I was a junior in high school. And I was unrecruited, and, like, went to junior college, was living in a garage with my best friend. And, like, he has that knowledge. He's a bodybuilder. He owns his own gym. I mean, he's extremely successful at what he does. And through kind of, us living together, it really, like, opened my eyes to all the knowledge that was out there about, like, I, from square one, was like, how to build muscle, like Google search, when absolutely. I was like 17, just trying to figure it out. And I had a recruit recently ask, how did you get this much knowledge about this subject? And, usually that's like a way for them to be nice about saying, like, why should I take diet advice from someone that's 350 pounds, And so I'm sitting there kind of like in the back of my head laughing, and I'm just like, you know what? How I did this was trial and error on myself. And then it transitioned to, like, every phase of coaching. And it just kind of, like, you really, after doing this for, 10, 15 years, you can, like, see what's really working. And you can kind of develop that plan to a body type. Like, I wouldn't recommend the same plan from a 6'9" player to a 6'3" player. And you kind of get specific with it. And then you start mixing the skill guys. That's where it gets really interesting, because a fluctuation of 1% of body fat on a corner is extreme compared, because the sample size, because their weight is lower, rather than a lineman that can go up and down really fast weight wise. So then you're really have to be dialed in specifics. And then what does their job entail for them to do? A super fast wide receiver, or are you talking about a big body wide receiver that needs to be able to catch the jump ball and make those 50-50 catches? So it's interesting once you start really diving in position specific. But that's what I love to do.
How much time do you spend with Reed and the strength and the nutrition people compared to, like, like Dion, right? Who's working with the smaller guys. I mean, like, is in your opinion, is that a big part of being an offensive line coach?
I mean, spending time with, the players and going through their diet specifically does take a lot of time. We have a lot of linemen. But kind of what I do is I try to observe their routine and kind of get with the professionals in those areas to make sure that I'm on track with what they're on track with. And we've done Coach Campbell. I've never seen a person do such a good job at like bringing a bunch of like leaders or people in that area together into one goal. And he does a great job of just opening the lines of communication for us. So we're not like separate. And I'm not saying something that they're emphasizing. And, we're never going against each other in that way. And usually you can get from the position coach, you can kind of get the truth on, what they're eating or what their diet's like, or how many times they actually lifted, when they went home for break, and really try to figure out, not necessarily like it's you're going to get punished for this. It's more of like, hey, I'm trying to find out what your routine has been so that I can modify it, so that you don't get hurt when you come back training. If you haven't trained for 2 weeks and you just come back in and go full tilt squat for 700 pounds, like something's going to be bad there. So it's like,
yeah.
It's kind of cool to work with them. And, like I said, it's not even like a recruiting pitch for us. It's just what I like to do. And it's worked a lot. And so for me, it's what got me here, to be honest with you. And that for me is what I'm passionate about. So it's easy to talk to people, kids, recruits, our players, anyone about it. And I'm never too proud to sit there and just learn from other people, because that's how I figured it out in the first place.
So, one of the things, Coach, that I'm always Matt did a pretty cool thing when he first got in. I think it was his second or third year. He let me sit in on meetings. I basically spent a full day of camp with the coaching staff. And one of the things I learned in that film session when I was watching it with those guys until 2 a.m. or whatever it was how little I knew about what you do, right? Like there's oftentimes where the same with like maybe an interception, like everybody blames the quarterback. Well, sometimes somebody runs the wrong route
very true.
What I was fascinated with about your position is how meticulous you all are when it comes to breaking down film. Like I'm sitting here watching these guys, 5 grown men in a room, 6 grown men in a room, and they're rewatching the first step of a backup left tackle 6 times in a row and taking notes on it. Like it's unbelievable to me. I had no idea that aspect of the game even existed. I guess I give you that story because I have a hard time being critical of offensive linemen because I often don't know what they're supposed to be doing. What do you say to fans who, I guess, what do you think most fans don't know about offensive line play that you wish that they would in that sense?
Yeah, I would say, as an offensive lineman, it comes with the job, and we accept that. And when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad, and that's kind of the mentality for everybody. For us, it's just like, we just got to keep coming back to work and put the hard hat on and clock in, so we never get too high and we never get too low. And I think for me personally, as an offensive lineman, like you have to take great pride in protecting the quarterback. That's like the first thing that you have to do, like when you sign up to do this. 2, it's not just your job to block people, it's your job to create holes for the running back. And I think that a lot of that's been lost a little bit in football at times, because it's like people do want to point fingers and look around and say, even in coaching, they're like, oh, that guy did it. But it's really more like, you got to sit there and go, look, it's our job to open holes for running back. It's our job to protect the quarterback at all costs. Example, if we call play action pass and the offensive line doesn't fake the actual play that you're trying to play action, what's the purpose of running that play action? You might as well just throw the ball, drop back and throw it, So I try to put a lot of that ownership on them. Like I'm teaching them what the running back is reading to run the ball, which is actually, you won't see that a lot. And it's more of just like, get on that guy, drive him straight back. I want to define the reads for the running backs. I want to open up, as big of a hole as possible and stay on those blocks as long as possible. Try to go downfield, get another one, keep going. And I think that for me, that was the first thing I tried to do, is break them out of their shell a little bit of like, I'm doing my job. And and you start to kind of look over there and go and point. It's like, no, don't point fingers at anybody else. It's our job to do this. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. And I think any offensive line coach, if they watch this, would be like, yeah, I agree. It's like, that's our job. From an offensive line mentality standpoint, you got to have something that you stand for. Like, there are certain things, like non-negotiable things, right? For me, like, I'm not going to sit there and talk about, you have to have both hands on the desk and stare at the screen with both eyes wide open. You can blink 5 times in a meeting, and like, you're sitting there and you're just like tense the whole time. I'm trying to get those guys actively learning. So I want them to hear it. I want them to draw it themselves, not me draw for them. I want them to draw it. I want them to get on the board. I want them to teach it to other people, because I believe, like, when you've truly mastered a subject, is you would be able to then teach it to someone else and feel confident teaching it to someone else. I want those guys to get that experience, because maybe they want to be coaches one day. I've had a lot of guys that do. And they need to get practice early on how to then present that to their peers, and take criticism, work through hard things, draw up defenses, learn how to look at a defense. Because then when you're at home at night and you're watching film, then you're not lost when you're watching it. You know what you're looking at. It makes sense to you. And for me personally, I just believe that, like, there's a 365-day approach to football. It's not just like the season. It's not just these games. It's, you have to, the weight room, what you're putting in your body, the time management, what you're doing outside of football, and then again, like, your knowledge of football, because there's book smart and there's football smart. Like, we have Jalen Travis, who's like, could be the president. He's that smart, book smart, right? Well, I was gonna ask you, guess what? Him, yeah. He's football smart too. And there is a big difference between football smart and book smart. And, he's got that ability. And I think that, like, those are the things that we try to develop in our guys. And that'll help them have long-term success. But kind of back to the original question, offensive line play. If I had to tell people one thing about it, fans, everybody else that was watching it, if you don't dent the line of scrimmage, if you're not moving the line of scrimmage, if you're going to see, the thing about offensive line play is, if you're the one guy that isn't doing his job, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Like, you'll be able to see visually that person not performing. As an offensive line, you should see all 5 moving in unison and with very skilled, specific techniques to be able to, because defensive linemen, I think that's another thing. Like, you should see the size of some of these D linemen and the speed of these D ends. I mean, it's out of control. It's not even close to when I played, and I was playing against some dudes. Mm-hmm. So you have to you can't just line up and like go screw to screw with somebody, and you're going to go 50-50 on those blocks. Like, you have to be skilled. You have to run, explode off the ball, bring your hips. You can't just bench press a guy. You can't just squat a person. Like, you're going to have to put the whole thing together. And I think that it's a little bit more complex than trying to just, run around. But there also is like a fine balance of how complex are you going to make this, and what do you stand for? What's like your core value, right? And for me, it's violence. Like, I do want you to rage off the ball. I do want you to go run right through somebody's face. I want you to dent the line of scrimmage. I want you to define the read key for the running back. And I want you to use these techniques to do this. You know what I mean? So limiting a million techniques to then, shrink them out in the field and kind of like, oh, I got to think about what I'm doing here. No, I want you to have done this 100 times, know exactly what you're doing, be so confident just like we talked about with film, be so confident you can get in front of the room and teach this play to your peers. Go on the field, have that same amount of confidence, and run right through somebody's face. And like that's the balance that you're always working for as an offensive line coach and player, and really like that would be the perfect balance.
All right, we'll get back to Ryan Clanton in just a couple of minutes, but I need to thank our sponsors of the summer series as we continue to preview the 2024 Iowa State football season. And some guys I'm really getting to know and appreciate over at Central States Roofing. What I love about this company, it's 100% local. They don't subcontract any of their work, 100% local. They are diehard Cyclone fanatics. They perform work and have employees in Ames, Des Moines, Fort Dodge, and within a 75-mile radius of all of those locations. Licensed, they can warrant up to 30 years on. They do a lot of construction stuff, but they can do your house too. If you're having water problems, a lot of storm damage throughout the state of Iowa this year. Unfortunately, if you need a new roof, Central States Roofing, give them a shot. Shout out to Ryan, who I've been working with. He's a big supporter of what we're doing. Again, family owned and operated since 1968. And then my buddies, the Natuzal family, Clay and Chase. These are Raymond James financial advisors, and we appreciate their sponsorship of the summer series. Again, these are just local guys who have listened to us for years, and they want to help out other Cyclones for planning your financial future. They are Raymond James financial advisors, longtime history with Iowa State. I mean, these guys go way back. Clay's mom and dad both worked at Iowa State. Dad was a professor there for 30 years. I mean, this is going back decades of being part of the Cyclone family, and now they're a part of the Cyclone fanatic family as well. If you're getting to that age and you need some help planning your financial future, think of my guys Clay and Chase Natuzal. They are Raymond James financial advisors. Just go ahead and Google them. Their stuff will pop right up for you. It's a cool father-son partnership that they got going on. They have offices in Ankeny and Carroll, and you can get in by appointment in Ames as well. All right, let's get back to Ryan Clanton. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I did. Let's hear what the offensive line coach has to say. We'll wrap this thing up here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network.
The other thing I've learned over the years is offensive line in a weird way is it's kind of like synchronized swimming, like where you've got to like have all these guys moving in the same direction and doing the same type of thing. Is that why? Because we saw a big jump in productivity from your group from game one, obviously, until the end of last year, where Sama's running for like 400 yards against Kansas State or whatever that was. Does that something that when you have a new coach like you did, is that normal to take a little bit of time? And because we saw again, like the jump from game one to game six, I thought was just incredible last year.
Yeah, that is normal. We also had a new offense, so terminology, plays, obviously a lot of different plays. And then the thing that we did was a little bit different as we started to really open it up, mid-season. And credit to Coach House, he did a great job. And we just really started to open it up and get more aggressive, from a play standpoint, like what we were running and calling on the field. I think that helped a ton. But I was also, mixing and matching guys and moving them around, like even game one against UNI, you end up playing two quarterbacks and, in the first half or however that went. So like we're mixing and matching personnel, trying to find the right fit. And then I felt like once we really found that, it clicked and it went. And, credit to those guys and being able to play. I mean, we started a true freshman, like you don't see that a lot as an offensive line. Really, credit to him, credit to the unit for helping, credit to everyone, like developing him to get to that point. So I think that it caught stride and it went. The best thing about this year that's different than last year is, now there's a lot of competition through recruiting and development, and you're getting guys off injuries that weren't available last year. Obviously, you've added new pieces to the puzzle. And I mean, that really breeds success, and those guys are going to have to really fight and claw to get on the field, and that's how it should be, So I think that the system being simplified, and even now to technically you have a new offensive coordinator, but we worked hand in hand last year through it. So we both have like a really good feel, and the addition of Tyler Roll, who's a dog. I mean, straight savage. I love that guy. But having that new mix and some new wrinkles, and then obviously bringing those guys up, developing those younger players to better learn the system. Like for me, word association. Like, why are you calling a play? Are you calling a play so that you can remember it as a coach, or so that the kids can remember it? Because the only thing that matters is that the kids remember the play. It's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter that you can remember it and then you go complain that they don't remember it, right? Like, it's on us. Like, we have to. Word association is huge in learning, right? And especially the younger generation. So for us, like, we're always trying to morph and continue to develop and call plays to what our kids know and what they're good at, their skill sets. And I think that's like, some people are different. They're just like, look, we run what we run, and if you can't figure it out, then leave. And that's just not here. It's not what we do, And, even when I got there, I showed up. I didn't bring any players with me or anything like that. And I was honest with them. I said, look, I'm going to love you. I'd die for you. All you guys, I didn't recruit you, but I would die for any one of you. And I'm going to do what's best for this team to win games. And I'm going to develop each and every one of you like you're my own brother. I mean, I would put that much effort into each and every personal relationship. Though they know I care about them, they, obviously care about me to a certain extent. And it's pretty cool to have that relationship with those guys. And I think that continues to grow as you keep going. And when I say a certain extent, I mean, when I'm yelling at them, they probably don't love me.
I'm sure there's plenty of that. Tell me a little bit more about Travis. What an interesting, I don't want to call him a prospect because he's not a prospect, but he's certainly new to Iowa State fans. This is a guy with a frame that is incredible. He's from Princeton, for God's sake. He's clearly really smart. You said he could be president. How excited should we be about this young man?
Yeah, really. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of people that look like that. I mean, he is gigantic.
Yeah. I saw him. He's different, man. That's a different cat.
Yeah, very large. He makes me look like I'm like, 5'4", standing next to him. So he's a big body. He has like this interesting movement skill. Like, he has the ability to move and cover so much ground that you almost have to modify a little bit of like the way you teach him, even from a pass setting standpoint. The people that he's going to play next to, you really have to be conscious about that too, because he is so big and he is agile. Like, he can get to a certain spot really fast. And I think that he would tell you the same thing. Being here, we've really dove into the specifics on his diet, nutrition, and really taking his body to the next level, which it is right now, even through the process from recruiting. And currently where he's at, I mean, sky's the limit for that guy. He is I've played with and been around some very large humans, first round draft picks, and he is gigantic. So very excited.
Well, any other guys, and I know we could probably go through the whole room, which we don't have time for today, but is any other guys maybe from last year, like that you thought we saw Black come in the middle of the year. He was really good, but just guys you were really excited to, all right, I can't wait to get to the off season with this guy and see what we can do. Anybody stand up?
Yeah. No. I mean, starting from the top, Hufford, teaching him how to play center. Like, he did a phenomenal job with that. And that's not talking about a tough skill to learn. That's a tough skill. I've been there.
Especially when you've been around for a while, right? And then all of a sudden you're making that switch. Does that make it harder?
Yeah. It's definitely different. But he's obviously willing to learn and did a great job with that. And his body looks great. He's lean and he's strong. He's a horse. Tyler Miller's, phenomenal, great leader. The guys all really love him. And for him, like sky's the limit as well. I mean, he is a very like covering ground, really the same as Travis. Um, for us, like Brennan Black, he's just he's a dog. I mean, that guy that try to rip your face off. That's how you sum up Brennan Black.
Well, he had to be for you guys. I remember checking the depth chart last year. I don't know what game it is. Well, who's that? And then he was awesome. He graded out really high, and yeah, you guys that you had to have like a special feeling to put a true freshman in, right? Like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's telling you it was really what he's done all season and into practice. I mean, you have to really keep your head on a swivel if you're playing against that dude, even in practice, because like he's out there, like there's a purpose when he plays football, and he's not smiling. So, yeah, he's a dog for sure. And then speaking of not smiling, I mean, Tyler Morrow, his body is transformed. He takes everything like it's his last play, and he did a really, really good job this spring. Like he was kicking some tail. So I'm excited about him. Honestly, a guy that's the only person that I would, if like for me personally, holding the bag, you got to make business decisions when you're not playing. That would probably be the one business decision that I would make, is to not hold the bag for Dalen. That guy, like when you say run through someone's face, he will run through your face, and he doesn't really care who that is. So if you're standing in front of him and, like you got to really make a business decision if you're holding the bag. That guy is super explosive, violent in every word, every letter of that word. I mean, that's him. So he's done a great job. Trevor Burr, young guy that's like, I mean, he's 317 pounds. He looks amazing. He can really snap his hips and roll. And then you've got, Dylan Barrett from Wisconsin, who's 337 pounds at almost 20% body fat. I mean, he's a big dude. And he's skilled at multiple positions and has really grown a ton since he's been here, not only his body, but just football knowledge in general. Jim Boniface is at 315, and he's got the speed to, like he can go get something. I mean, playing like center guard, whatever, like when he pulls, I mean, he'll attach to you fast. Sometimes I'll play linebacker in practice, and, I'm always my head's on a swivel for Dalen. I'm like, I don't want that one. And then Jim will sneak up out of nowhere and he'll put hands on me even. And I'm like, oh, that didn't feel great. So with that added weight, it's majority muscle. So he can really accelerate and run. James Neal is gigantic.
Man, is there a guy who improved more from the beginning to the end of last year than him?
No, sometimes I sit next to him in meetings sometimes. Just in certain situations, let's say it's a team meeting or we're watching film as a team. And then I kind of just look at him and I'm just like, dude, that's crazy. It's not even like the same player.
Yeah.
And it's like, cause he's still so new to football. But he's 338 pounds. He's a big, large human, and he's like, he can run, electric personality. Everyone loves him. Like super fun to talk to, like just a really great person.
He had a fascinating year at the beginning of the year. He got caught a couple times and it just looks bad on film. And like, he was kind of taking some flack. And at the end, you guys couldn't keep him out of the lineup.
No,
like it was just this incredible transformation. It was awesome to see.
He's like, I remember at the beginning of the year, there was a couple times, like just a snap count, like, wasn't getting off the ball, when the ball was getting snapped. I had to like remind myself, he was so new to football. But the thing I like about James is like he's also very hard on himself, so you don't have to like, for him to kick it into gear, you don't have to do much. And like he takes things personally. Like if he makes a mistake or an obvious mistake, like he'll take it personally and he'll fix it and keep rolling. And the improvement out of him, like to the beginning to the end of the year, is not even close. And this offseason with him was like critical. And he's done a great job. I mean, he's super strong. He's fast. He's really agile. And like I said, like great leader. The guys love him, obviously. He really kind of just his personality just attracts people. And no, I love James, man. He's a great player, great human. And the sky's the limit for him too. But I'm really excited about a lot of the guys, like I could go and name every single one of them, because they deserve it. And they've been doing a great job. Ladwig, he's been kicking butt. He's super physical. Gabe Greenlee, was a wrestler at Iowa State. And he's 6'6", 305 pounds, and he can run. He's like learning how to play, but he's super violent. And I love his tenacity and his finish. And so it's kind of fun because if you didn't feel like that as a coach, it's on you. Like, do you actually, how much do you care about the players? Are you going to invest your personal time in their development, or are you going to go on vacation, like that in my head, like that's kind of in a raw way to say that, but like that it is what it is, right? It's like, so those guys, like I care about all those guys so much, like they're just great humans. They love football. We've got the right guys in the room now, which is critical. And we don't have a lot of, like, there isn't like any glaring issues or anything where you're like, oh man, this one thing about this person, like those guys are working their tails off. Like none of those guys think that they are the best ever. They're very like humble and result driven. And like I said, being off lineman, like you can't be too high, you can't be too low. You just got to, clock in, put your hard hat on, and go back to work. And like that's the mentality that they have in that room, those guys.
Well, I can't wait to watch, man. You make me want to get in the weight room.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Anytime you want to lift, I got dumbbells in the office, so sometimes I make the guys go lift in there, or the other coaches and stuff. So we get after it in here. It's pretty fun.
I got a feeling I'd struggle come leg day. I don't know if I could hang.
Yeah,
with you
me
guys.
too. I know. Yeah, I'm all arms. I did a heavy arm session today.
Attaboy.
Yeah, I'm not. When it comes to the legs, those. It's like, hey man,
You don't need to do that anymore.
No way, man. My back has seen too much weight back in the day, and that, like I said, like you learn from those experiences to then help the players now, like I'm always kind of going after like, hey man, like even just the way you run or what surface you're running on, in comparison to the days you're squatting, like save your back, like those are the things like I'm passionate about helping them. Even if it took my body to deteriorate for those guys to learn, like I'm cool with that, like that's coaching, like that. And hopefully they don't make that same mistake, and that's my job to make sure that they don't.
Well, Coach, this was awesome. First time I get to do this with you, and I definitely want to do it again, and really insightful stuff. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, we'll do it. We can do it every single day if you want at 12 noon. No problem. This is great. Lunch break right here.
Well, you be my personal trainer. How about that?
Yeah. I can get how tall are you?
About 5'10". Yeah.
5'10". Yeah. I'm thinking 225 could be a good.
That's my ideal weight. Okay.
225, kind of top it out at 245. Just got to get the body fat scan done. And then
that's the problem. That'll be the issue here. Gonna have to drop some of that body fat to get up there the way you want me. But maybe we can do it together. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm still living off of body fat percentage from 2013 when I was playing in Oregon, and I just kind of add like 0.5% every year, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm probably at that percent. Everyone's like, wow, that's awesome.
Getting older sucks. I turn 40 next week, and the old body fat's harder to stave off. So I got to quit making excuses, though. I just got to be more violent with my lifting.
Yeah, that'll help, man. That'll help for sure.
He's Ryan Clanton, Iowa State's offensive line coach, here on our summer series inside look at Iowa State football.